Team Kid is about harnessing the power and the strength that you as a student have within you, and to service and provide support to your community. Team Kids has been extremely impactful in such a short period of time.
When I got here, I let them know who I was and that I was there to be part of their team. They can trust me and just see me not just like as a police officer, but like a partner.
The experience has been amazing. Just coming here and just seeing the growth, how the kids are learning to entrust the police, and learning to entrust the fire department, and just seeing them build confidence in themselves is always amazing.
Our job as a police officer is not to hinder their future, but to enable them to have a future.
Taking that energy that they have, that natural youthful zest, and we're guiding them towards something that lets them know, an ideology that lets them know they are important, they are capable.
We're building strong kids for a greater community tomorrow.
For an incredible treat. Joining us from PS 149 in Brooklyn, New York, please give a warm welcome to Principal Yvette Donald.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly very excited to be joining you. Wishing it could have been in person, but excited nevertheless that it's virtual. And I have an opportunity to just talk about this amazing partnership that I've had with Team Kids. So my name is Yvette Donald, and I'm a first-generation immigrant. I'm a wife, a daughter, a cousin, a mother, an educator. And I've had the very privileged opportunity to lead an amazing group of young people. I see myself as the lead learner of this cohort of amazing young people in East New York, Brooklyn, no less. We're a Title I school. We have over 85% of our students that receive free lunch. We have about 30% of our students that experience housing insecurity and with documented trauma. And so due to the very expanded needs of my student population, I'm very fortunate to have a staff of about 80 to 90 people, depending on the year, to support me in doing this work. I took over this school approximately 12 years ago. I took over a school that had angry families, untrusting students, and untrusting staff members. We were dealing with a lot of trauma given the time period we were in, given situations that were happening within our East New York communities. And so coming on board, it was really important for me to think about what are those organizations that I'm going to bring into my building, into this school community, that will respect and uplift the community and allow the community to be the best that it can be, so that our students can not only actually survive the trauma that they're going through, but actually push through it and thrive to become better individuals and actually see the future of what and who they can be and what they can do. And so my borough safety director, Gary Alvin, was gracious to connect me with Julie Hadash. And what a life-changing experience it was for myself, for my students, our school community as a whole. We were able to partner with amazing first responders, fire department members, Al Coom, NYPD officer, Marin. We were able to partner with many social service members who were able to just talk to us about building trusting relationships. So one of the things that really stood out to me was there was so much violence and anger among students, between adults, students, between adults in the school community and the families, that when we as a community school were reaching out to the police department, we were reaching out and they would arrive with the urgency and the passion in which we reached out to them. And then when they got here, their response led to negative impact. And so what I started to see as the principal of this building, what I started to see immediately was within the first 5 months, I started to see my school community go from bad to worse. And so I had to rethink what asking for help looked like. And as I said, when my borough safety director partnered me with Julie, it allowed me to build on something that I had started to do within the second half of my year after taking over the school, which was reinvent my partnership with the NYPD, reinvent my partnership with the FDNY, and reinvent what the relationships will look like between my school community and first responders, so that when we called them, they responded appropriately, and that my students saw them not as individuals who were going to come and create worse circumstances for them, but actually support them. The goal was to build trusting relationships. So our conversation with Julie, who, by the way, came to our school with a team full of well-trained mentors who were passionate about their work, who loved the children, who were respectful. And in the conversation that we had, she talked about what exactly is it that is drawing you to want to partner with Team Kids. And I talked about 3 things. One was I wanted to reshape the way that we as principals and those in positions of leadership where we supervise or we nurture young children. I wanted to change how we call in first responders to support us. I wanted to really rethink this idea of when there is a traumatic situation in the school that seems to be beyond the control of school, and we need to call in for a first responder. How do we call? What tone do we use? What context do we give them so that they are then appropriately able to come in and service our students and not come into the building feeling like either principal or the staff members are in such harm's way that they have to be super aggressive in de-escalating the situation. So that I wanted to learn how to do that better through my partnership with Team Kids. My second thing was I wanted my students and my community to better understand the relationship with first responders, to build a sense of empathy toward the work that happens for first responders, and have first responders get to understand the students, their trauma, but then also see them push through their trauma and be able to produce wonderful, amazing projects like what happens when we were doing the Teen Kids Challenge, where kids were able to think beyond themselves, where FDNY officer, service member Al Coombs brought the bunny, and he was talking about how you can be tough on the outside, but you can also be very loving on the inside, and that there's ways to show your love, and there's ways to be able to develop the dual characteristics that our children sometimes need to have when they're in the school building and in a safe space versus when they're walking outside on the street and they're encountering dangerous situations and circumstances. So that was the second thing that I wanted to do. And then the third thing that I wanted to do was this idea of helping my students understand how to build a relationship with people who are in positions of authority. How do you strike up a conversation? How do you interact with them when you're passing them on the street or when you're in a tense situation? Those are my 3 big goals. And I will say that in the time that Team Kids worked with us, in that first year, we were amazed. It was through our surveys, through conversations with families, through conversations with children. We were amazed to hear children say, I didn't know that police officers had kids at home that they had to go home to also. I didn't know that if you push a police officer and they bump their elbow, that it hurts them too. Things that we didn't realize were the things that kids didn't think about because they didn't understand that they could trust first responders, that they could trust individuals who were charged with helping them to help them if they allowed themselves to get to know them beyond what the rhetoric was about who these individuals were. It was really exciting to have our students be able to work with police officers directly firefighters directly to build projects, to see the teamwork that was happening, to see them be able to persevere and talk and push through issues that they had because they had relatives that had negative experiences with officers, and say, maybe I could see myself becoming a police officer or a firefighter. It's not that bad. You guys are not bad people. You just want everyone to be safe. It was so powerful to hear the community say, we don't all have to be police officers, but we all have to be individuals and officers of rule and order. To hear fifth graders talk about, I want to be an agent of safety. I don't have to be a safety agent, but I can be an agent of safety because I can secure my school community and I can secure my larger community. And here's how I can do it. Here are the individuals in the community that I can go to get help. I love the conversations that they had with the students as they were building their projects and asking children to think, even though you're in a tough situation, right? Tough situation, and you're experiencing trauma, it feels so good to give because I, police officer Marin, firefighter Coon, I too was in a tough situation, but it feels so good when I get to give. And so my students started to understand that in spite of 30% of us having housing insecurity, in spite of a large percentage, over 85% having low income, we can still give, that there is power in service. There is power in the collective action of creating a safe community. And that happened because Julie provided us an opportunity to work closely with the police officers and the firefighters who not only brought their materials to share with the students, their experiences of how they went from being young children to eventually officers, making the decisions to do that, the good decisions they made, the decisions that they wish they hadn't, but were able to turn around. But she also brought this sense of hope and building a trusting relationship, being able to mend some of the hardships that existed because my students and my staff communities began to see these first responders as individuals, and we humanized our experiences together. And so I'm so thrilled and so excited about the partnership that I have with Team Kids. My children and my families look forward to it. The staff looks forward to it. The carnival, while it may sound very simple, within the carnival process, those weeks of building the activities that other students are going to engage in is an opportunity for our children to really think very critically, to think beyond themselves, to plan, to execute activities, to surface their weaknesses and their challenges with working with other students, and then be able to get through that. It's been an amazing experience. I want to just conclude with this thought. When we reflected, my borough safety director asked me to reflect on my experience with Team Kids and said, well, why is it so important to you that you continue your partnership with them? I said, because this was an opportunity for us to actually think about that, the development, prevention, and intervention pathway. We often talk about how high school students interact with law enforcement in New York City public schools. It wasn't until we started talking about Team Kids, him and I, that we started to think about how amazing it would be to be able to develop healthy relationships so that we would minimize the need to prevent negative interactions and thereby setting off this idea of having to intervene because students are now having these really horrific experiences with law enforcement or other first responders. And so I'm really grateful to Team Kids for this partnership. I'm very excited about continuing my partnership with them. I'm very grateful to our first responders for the work that they've done with us. I want to give a huge shout out to two particular first responders. That's Officer Marin and Firefighter Coombs, who have left such an amazing print on our school community. I want to take a few minutes, and I know we've had several coaches, but Coach Ryan's influence on our school community was so amazing. The energy, the love, the passion, and the drive that he brought into the community has sustained us 5 years later. So thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you so very much for our partnership, and I'm looking forward to having it continue.